She was the heiress to a criminal empire, the daughter of the city's most feared man. Genevieve Falcone was beautiful, untouchable, and utterly broken. Bodyguards quit, therapists fled, and her father, Don Salvatore Falcone, was out of options. His only daughter was a liability who threatened to burn his entire world to the ground. No one could control her. No one could even get close. Until Olivia Russo, a waitress with shadows in her eyes and a past she kept locked away, started clearing her table. What happened next wasn't just unexpected. It was impossible. This is the story of how a woman with nothing brought the mafia's wild princess to her knees, and in doing so, changed the balance of power in the entire city. The penthouse suite at the Argent Hotel smelled of stale champagne and gardenias. Genevieve Jenna Falcone stood on the balcony, her silk robe slipping off one shoulder, and watched the steel-grey river carve through the city far below. She was 22, with hair the colour of midnight and eyes that held a frantic, bored emptiness. "Jenna, please," a young man, a flavour of the week named Todd, pleaded from the doorway. "Your father's men are here. They look angry." Jenna laughed, a sound like breaking glass. She picked up a half-full bottle of Dom Perignon from an ice bucket. "Angry? Vinny's always angry. It's his resting face." She spun around, her eyes landing on Todd. He was handsome, but weak. They were all weak. "This," she said, holding up the bottle, "is a $400 bottle of bubbles, and this," she gestured to the opulent, wrecked suite, "is a 5,000 a night monument to boredom." She walked past him, her bare feet padding on the plush carpet littered with broken crystal. Two men in sharp, dark suits stood in the entryway. The one in the lead, Vincent Vinny Bruno, didn't flinch. He was her father's right hand, his consigliere of sorts, a man whose face looked carved from granite. "Genevieve," Vinny said, his voice a low rumble. "You're done. We're leaving." "Or what, Vinny?" Jenna sneered, walking right up to him. She tapped his chest with the neck of the bottle. "You'll spank me. Put me in time out." "You assaulted a councilman's son at the bar," Vinny said, his eyes like ice. "You pushed him into the lobby fountain. The man is connected. Your father is cleaning up your mess. Again." "He touched me," Jenna said with a shrug, suddenly bored again. "He looked at you," Vinny corrected. "You can't keep doing this. One day, you'll break something that your father can't fix." Jenna's eyes flashed. She spun and hurled the $400 bottle at a priceless abstract painting on the wall. Champagne and glass exploded everywhere. Todd yelped and ducked. Vinny and the other bodyguard didn't even blink. "I am Genevieve Falcone," she whispered, her voice trembling with a sudden, potent rage. "I am the thing you can't fix. Now get out." Vinny stared at her for a long, hard second. He saw the self-destruction. He saw the desperate plea for something underneath it. But his job wasn't to be a therapist. His job was to contain the fallout. "The car is downstairs. You have 5 minutes." He turned and left, the other man following. Jenna waited until the door clicked shut. Her shoulders slumped. The fire was gone, replaced by that familiar, hollow cold. She walked back to the balcony, ignoring Todd, who was nervously trying to wipe champagne off his designer jacket. She had everything, and she had nothing. Across town, in the shadowed alleys of the city's old Italian district, Olivia Russo was drying her hands on a threadbare apron. She worked at Il Corvo d'Oro, the Golden Raven, one of the last true neutral ground restaurants. It was a place of dark wood, red leather booths, and unwritten rules. Deals were made here, truces were broken, and Don Salvatore Falcone himself ate here every Thursday. Olivia was 25, but the last 2 years had aged her. She was quiet, efficient, and almost invisible, which was exactly how she liked it. She served pasta and poured wine, but her mind was elsewhere. It was always on her brother, Leo. Leo Russo. Funny, charming, stupid Leo. He had wanted the fast life, the easy money. He had started running packages for some low-level Falcone associates. Then, 6 months ago, he had vanished. The police were a joke. "Your brother was involved in a bad crowd, miss," the detective had said, not even looking up from his paperwork. "These things happen." But Olivia knew. These things didn't just happen. They were done. She had applied for the job at Il Corvo d'Oro for one reason: to listen, to watch, to find any scrap of information that could lead her to Leo. She lived in a world of fear. Fear of the men she served, fear of what she might find out, and fear of never finding out at all. Her boss, Mr. Petrone, a man who had seen too much to ever be surprised, called her from the kitchen. "Olivia, booth 4, and be quick. It's the princess." Olivia felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She had seen Jenna Falcone before. The girl was a storm system, a whirlwind of entitlement and cruelty. She came in, made a scene, and left a trail of humiliated staff in her wake. Olivia grabbed her notepad. "On my way." She stepped out of the kitchen, straightened her spine, and walked toward the booth where the Mafia's most volatile asset was already complaining about the lighting. Olivia's only thought was to get through the next hour. She had no idea that this one shift was about to change her life and the entire Falcone empire forever. Jenna Falcone slid into the plush red leather booth, flanked by 2 fawning friends who looked more like paid accessories. She tossed her $1,000 handbag onto the seat and waved a dismissive hand. "This place smells like my grandmother's funeral," she announced, loud enough for the adjacent tables, occupied by men who respected Mr. Petrone and the restaurant's history, to hear. A few forks paused mid-air. "It's classic, Jenna," one of her friends, a blonde girl named Tiffany, simpered. "It's like vintage." "It's old," Jenna snapped, "and I'm starving. Where is the service?" She snapped her fingers, a sharp, ugly sound that cut through the low hum of dinner conversation. Olivia arrived, holding a water carafe and 3 menus. She moved with an economy of motion, her face a mask of polite neutrality. She placed the menus down. "Good evening. Can I start you with something to drink?" Jenna didn't even look at her. She was scrolling through her phone. "I'll have a... What's that stupidly expensive wine Vinny always orders? The Sassicaia, 2015. Bring the bottle." "Of course," Olivia said, her voice even. "And for you?" she asked the friends. "Just water," Tiffany mumbled, intimidated. "They'll have whatever I'm having. Don't be cheap, Tiffany. Daddy's paying," Jenna said, still glued to her phone. As Olivia turned to leave, Jenna's foot shot out, catching Olivia's ankle. It wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate, petty trip. Olivia stumbled, catching herself on the edge of the table. The heavy glass carafe of ice water wobbled, but she managed to slam it down before it completely overturned, though a wave of icy water splashed onto the table, soaking the edge of the white cloth. Jenna's friends gasped. Jenna herself finally looked up, a slow, cruel smile spreading across her face. "Oh, clumsy. You should be more careful. You almost ruined my shoes." The restaurant went quiet. Mr. Petrone watched from the bar, his face pale. This was the moment. The waitress would apologize, grovel, and Jenna would probably demand she be fired. Olivia stood perfectly still for a second. She felt the hot blush of humiliation creep up her neck, but something else rose faster. A cold, hard anger. She thought of Leo. She thought of the fear she lived with every day. And she looked at this girl, This child playing games with people's lives, and the fear just evaporated. Slowly, Olivia picked up a fresh napkin and began to methodically dab at the spilled water. She didn't apologize. "You're not even going to say you're sorry?" Jenna demanded, her voice rising. Olivia finished blotting the water. She folded the damp napkin, placed it on her tray, and then, finally, lifted her eyes to meet Jenna's. "I apologize for the water," Olivia said, her voice clear and low, devoid of any fear or subservience. "But you tripped me." The color drained from Jenna's face. The friends stared, their mouths open. No one spoke to Jenna Falcone like that. "What did you just say to me?" Jenna whispered, her smile vanishing, replaced by a storm. "I said, you tripped me," Olivia repeated, not breaking eye contact. "It was rude." "Rude?" Jenna's laugh was sharp. "Do you have any idea who I am?" "I do," Olivia said calmly. "You're Mr. Falcone's daughter. You're sitting in booth 4, and you're delaying my other tables." She leaned in, just slightly, her voice dropping so only the booth could hear. "I'm not one of your playthings. I'm not your father's staff. I'm a waitress. Now, do you still want the sassicaia, or was that just for show?" Jenna was speechless. This was a new, terrible feeling. She had been insulted, threatened, and fawned over her entire life. She had never, ever been dismissed. She felt a strange, terrifying mix of rage and respect. She searched Olivia's eyes for a flicker of fear, a sign that this was a bluff. She found nothing, just a cold, weary strength. Get the wine," Jenna stammered. Olivia gave a single, curt nod. "Right away." She turned and walked away, her back straight, her hands not even trembling. She didn't see the man in the corner booth, the one who had been watching the entire exchange over the rim of his espresso cup. Vincent Vinnie Bruno had seen bodyguards, businessmen, and hardened criminals fold under Jenna's psychological warfare. He had just watched a $5 an hour waitress win a battle he'd been losing for 5 years. He put a few bills on his table, stood up, and followed Olivia toward the kitchen. He wasn't angry anymore. He was interested. Olivia was in the back alley, leaning against the damp brick wall, her heart finally hammering against her ribs. The adrenaline from the confrontation had faded, leaving a shaky, cold dread. "That was stupid, stupid, stupid," she muttered, closing her eyes. She hadn't just mouthed off to a customer. She had mouthed off to Genevieve Falcone. She would be fired. That was the best-case scenario. The worst case. She didn't let her mind go there. This job was her only way of gathering information. She had just torched her own investigation for a single moment of... what? Pride. The alley door creaked open, and a rectangle of yellow light fell across the pavement. Olivia tensed, expecting Mr. Patron to come out and fire her. Instead, the large, imposing silhouette of Vincent Bruno filled the doorway. Olivia's blood ran cold. This was it. This was the worst-case scenario. He was here to handle the problem. She straightened up, trying to keep her knees from buckling. "That was some show in there," Vinny said, his voice mild. He stepped into the alley, the door clicking shut behind him, plunging them back into near darkness. I apologize, Mr. Bruno," Olivia said, her voice commendably steady. I was out of line." "Out of line?" Vinny lit a cigarette, the flare of the match briefly illuminating his hard features. "Kid, you did something I haven't seen in 5 years. You shut her up." Olivia blinked or confused. "What?" "Genevieve Falcone," he said, taking a long drag. "She's a problem. A big, expensive, loud problem. My boss, her father, loves her more than anything. But she's a walking catastrophe. She's going to get herself hurt, or get someone else hurt, or start a war. We've tried everything. Bodyguards, therapists, bribes. Nothing works." He stepped closer, and Olivia had to fight the urge to shrink back. "You," he said, "didn't coddle her. You didn't cower. You didn't rise to the bait. You just handled it. You weren't afraid of her." "I was terrified," Olivia admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Vinny chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "Good. That means you're smart, but you were more in control of your fear than she was of her anger. That's what matters." He took another drag. "I'm offering you a job, Olivia Russo." This was not happening. A job? What job? I'm a waitress." "No, you're not. Not anymore. I'm offering you a job as Jenna's. Let's call it a personal companion. You'll live in the Falcone compound. You'll be with her 24/7. Your job is simple. Keep her in line. Keep her from setting the world on fire. You handle her, like you did tonight." Olivia's mind reeled. Live in the Falcone compound. The place she had been trying to get a glimpse of for 6 months. The heart of the operation. The place where answers about Leo were almost certainly kept. It was a death sentence, and the opportunity of a lifetime, all rolled into one. "Why me?" she asked, stalling, her brain working faster than it ever had. "Because you're not one of us," Vinny said. "You're not impressed by the money. You're not scared of the name. You're an outsider. Maybe that's what she needs." He dropped the cigarette and crushed it under his heel. "The pay is $20,000. A month." Olivia's breath hitched. That was more money than she'd seen in her entire life. Money that could help her. If she ever found Leo. But it wasn't about the money. "I have one question," she said, her voice hardening. Vinny raised an eyebrow. "You're negotiating." "No, I'm asking. My brother, Leo Russo. He worked for your people. He disappeared 6 months ago. I want to know what happened to him." The temperature in the alley dropped. Vinny's expression went from interested to flat. Dangerous. "Kid, you need to forget about your brother. He made bad choices. He's gone." "Is he dead?" Olivia pressed, her voice shaking but insistent. "He's gone," Vinny repeated. "That's the end of the story. You want this job, you drop it. You never mention his name again. You never go looking. That's the deal." This was the test. Her loyalty, her silence, in exchange for access. If she refused, she'd be a loose end. If she accepted, she'd be inside. She could find the truth herself. Olivia looked at the ground, at the crushed cigarette. She took a deep breath. "Okay, I'll drop it. I'll take the job." Vinny studied her for a long moment. "A car will pick you up tomorrow at 6 a.m. Pack a bag. You won't be back here for a long time." He turned and went back inside, leaving Olivia alone in the dark, her heart a cold, heavy stone in her chest. She had just made a deal with the devil. The next morning, Olivia was driven through a set of imposing wrought-iron gates. The Falcone compound wasn't a mansion, it was a fortress. Stone walls, immaculate lawns, and silent men in suits who watched everything. She was led not to the main house, but to a small, private study. Don Salvatore Falcone sat behind a massive oak desk, a small espresso cup in his hand. He was older than Vinny, with silver hair and eyes that were a surprisingly kind shade of blue. But there was no kindness in them now. Only exhaustion and a deep, penetrating intelligence. "Mr. Bruno speaks highly of you," Salvatore said, his voice a gravelly baritone. "He says you have a spine. My daughter. She breaks people." "She tries to," Olivia corrected quietly. Salvatore smiled, a brief, thin expression. "Yes, she does. I love her, Miss Russo. She is the only good thing my wife left me. But she is unwell. She is wild. This life, it has poisoned her." He stood up and walked to the window, looking out over his perfect, sterile garden. "I have enemies. Enemies who see her as a weakness, a target, a way to get to me. Her behavior, it makes her an easy target." He turned back to her. "Your job is not to be her friend. I've paid for friends. Your job is not to be her therapist. They all quit. Your job is to be her shadow, her jailer, if you must. You have my full authority to do whatever it takes to keep her safe, from others and from herself." "What does 'whatever it takes' mean?" Olivia asked. "It means I don't care if she likes you. I don't care if she screams or throws things or tries to hurt you. You do not quit. You do not back down. You will answer directly to me or to Mr. Bruno. You will report on her movements, her contacts, everything. You are, in effect, a spy in her life." "And in return?" "In return," Salvatore said, "you are under my protection, and you are paid handsomely. But if you fail, if she gets hurt on your watch, or if you ever betray my trust—" He didn't need to finish the sentence. The air in the room was cold enough. "I understand," Olivia said. "Good." He nodded to Vinny, who was standing by the door. "Take her to the guest wing. Introduce her to Genevieve." As Olivia was led out, she felt the weight of the Don's gaze on her back. She was inside. She was a rat in the lion's den. And now, the real, impossible work began. The guest wing was larger than Olivia's entire apartment building. Her room was opulent, with a four-poster bed and a balcony overlooking a swimming pool that shimmered under the bright afternoon sun. It felt like a gilded cage. Vinny handed her a keycard. "This gets you into this wing, the main house, the kitchen, and the grounds. It does not get you into the Don's study or the business offices. Don't try." "Where is she?" Olivia asked. "Her suite, end of the hall. She's expecting you." "Expecting me?" "I told her we were hiring a new assistant for her," Vinny said. "She's not pleased." That was an understatement. When Olivia knocked on the carved double doors of Jenna's suite, the door was thrown open. Jenna stood there, dressed in black leggings and a cashmere sweater, her face a mask of pure fury. "A babysitter," she hissed. "My father hired me a babysitter." "Hello, Jenna," Olivia said calmly, walking past her into the suite. It was a disaster. Clothes were everywhere. Plates of half-eaten food were on the floor, and an expensive laptop lay cracked in a corner. "Get out!" Jenna shrieked, grabbing a heavy glass perfumes bottle from her vanity. Olivia turned. "Are you going to throw that at me?" "I might." "Go ahead," Olivia said, standing perfectly still. "It's a $300 bottle of Baccarat Rouge. It's your loss. But here's what's going to happen next. You'll throw it. I'll either duck or I won't. Then I'll call Vinny. He'll come up here, yell at you, and you'll be grounded, or whatever it is your father does. You won't be allowed to go out. You'll lose your car, and I'll still be standing here. So you can either smash the bottle, and we can do that whole song and dance, or you can put it down, and we can skip to the part where I'm still here." Jenna's hand trembled. She was used to people cowering. She was used to them yelling back. This cold, logical dismantling of her power was infuriating. With a scream of frustration, she hurled the bottle, but not at Olivia. She threw it against her own wardrobe, where it shattered, releasing a cloying, expensive cloud of fragrance. "Fine," she screamed. "Stay. See if I care. You're just another servant." She stormed into her bedroom and slammed the door. The lock clicked. Olivia let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She looked around the wrecked suite. Okay, she thought. Phase 1. The next 2 weeks were a brutal war of attrition. Jenna treated Olivia with a mix of violent contempt and icy silence. She accidentally spilled scalding hot coffee on Olivia's arm. She locked her out on the balcony for an hour in the rain. She called her the help and waitress in front of the other staff. Through it all, Olivia did not react. She did not yell. She did not complain. She just endured. She cleaned up the messes. She brought Jenna her meals. She sat in the corner of the room and read a book while Jenna made vindictive phone calls. She was a stone wall. And in her off hours, the precious few she had, she began her real mission. She wasn't stupid. She knew, as Vinny had said, that the offices and study were off limits. But the men talked. The other staff talked. Olivia was a waitress. She knew how to be invisible, how to listen. She learned that security was run by a man named Paulie. She learned that deliveries to the house were logged by the kitchen manager. And she learned that her brother, Leo, had been a favorite of a capo named Tony Gallo, a man who ran the logistics on the waterfront. One night, while Jenna was passed out after drinking half a bottle of stolen vodka, Olivia slipped out of the suite. The house was quiet. She made her way to the ground floor, to a small records room near the kitchen she'd seen the manager use. It was, stupidly, unlocked. Her heart was in her throat. She fumbled for the light, then thought better of it, using her phone's flashlight instead. Filing cabinets, ledgers, invoices. She started pulling drawers, her hands shaking. Russo, L. Nothing. Leo, R. Nothing. She started looking at the waterfront shipping ledgers from 6 months ago. She found invoices for medical supplies and dry goods, but the shipping IDs were coded. She found a binder labeled Personnel Inactive. She flipped through it, and there it was. Russo, Leo. Status, terminated. Reason, internal misappropriation. TG. Resolution, SF discretion. Her blood froze. TG, Tony Gallo. SF, Salvatore Falcone. Terminated. The word was so cold, so final. But what did it mean? Fired? Or terminated? Looking for something? Olivia gasped and dropped the ledger. It hit the tile floor with a sickening slap. She spun around. Jenna Falcone was leaning in the doorway, her arms crossed, her eyes wide and alert. She was not drunk. She had been faking. "You're a spy," Jenna said, her voice a low, fascinated whisper. "You're not a babysitter. You're spying on my father." Olivia's mind raced. Deny it. Lie. It was useless. The evidence was in her hand. It's not what you think," Olivia stammered. "Isn't it?" Jenna walked into the room, her bare feet silent on the tile. "You've been so calm, so patient, taking all my crap. I thought you were a saint or a moron. But this makes sense. You want something." Jenna's eyes flicked to the name on the ledger page. "Leo Russo. Who's that? Your boyfriend?" "My brother," Olivia said, her voice cracking. "He worked for your father. He disappeared." Jenna stared at her. The usual malice in her eyes was gone, replaced by a sharp, calculating intelligence that Olivia had never seen before. "Terminated," Jenna read. She looked back at Olivia, and a flicker of something dark, pity or maybe understanding, crossed her face. "Oh, waitress, you really don't know anything, do you? Terminated doesn't mean fired." Suddenly, Jenna's face went pale. A phone on the desk, an internal line, began to ring. Jenna grabbed it, her hand shaking. "Yeah," she snapped. She listened. Olivia watched as all the blood drained from her face. She looked terrified. Genuinely, truly terrified. No, I can't. Don't call here again." Jenna whispered and slammed the phone down. She stumbled back, breathing hard. It was a full-blown panic attack. She slid down the wall, curling into a ball. "Jenna?" Olivia asked, forgetting the ledger, forgetting her own predicament. "He found me." Jenna hyperventilated. He knows I'm here. He's going to tell my father. He's going to... Who? Who's going to tell?" Olivia crouched down. Jenna looked up, her eyes wild with a fear that was far greater than any tantrum she had ever thrown. "Nico," she choked out. "Nico Moretti." Olivia felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold floor. The Morettis were the Falcones' biggest rivals, an old bloody feud that was always simmering. "Nico Moretti?" Olivia said. "What did you do, Jenna?" Jenna started to sob. Not her fake, angry tears, but real, desperate sobs. "I didn't mean to. I wanted to hurt my father, and now he owns me." In that moment, Olivia Russo's mission changed. She was no longer just looking for her dead brother. She was looking at a live girl who was in very real, very deep trouble. And for the first time, Olivia saw her opening. Olivia got Jenna back to her suite, her mind spinning. The girl who had been her tormentor was now a trembling wreck, huddled under a blanket on her chaise lounge. The dynamic had shattered and reformed in an instant. "Start from the beginning," Olivia said, her voice back to its calm, steady self. This was a problem to be solved, just like a rude customer or a kitchen fire. "Who is Nico Moretti, and what does he have on you?" Jenna wouldn't look at her. He's Antonio Moretti's son." "You know who they are?" "I know they're your father's main rivals," Olivia said, "which means you shouldn't be within 1,000 miles of him." "I know," Jenna flared, a flash of her old self. "I'm not an idiot. It started a year ago. I met him at a club. I didn't know who he was at first. He was just Nico. He was charming, and he wasn't scared of me. He treated me like a person." Olivia stayed silent, letting her talk. "We started seeing each other. Secretly. It was stupid, okay? It was like Romeo and Juliet, but dumber. It was a game. I felt alive. I felt like I was finally doing something that mattered, even if it was just betraying my father." "What did you tell him?" Olivia asked, her voice flat. "Nothing," Jenna said, too quickly. "Nothing important, just things. Stupid things. When my father was meeting with the commission, what routes his trucks take. Minor gossip. I was just bragging. Trying to impress him. To show him I was powerful too." Olivia closed her eyes. "Oh, Jenna. You didn't just tell him gossip. You gave him logistical information. You gave him tactical advantages." "I didn't know he was using me," Jenna's voice broke. "Not until 2 months ago. He changed. He started asking for more. Specifics. Shipment details. My father's private schedules. When I refused, he showed me what he had." "What?" "Texts. Recordings. He'd been recording me. All of it. All the things I'd told him. He said if I ever cut him off, or if I didn't give him what he wanted, he'd send the whole package to my father. Or worse, release it publicly. It would start a war. My father, Salvatore, he would kill me, or he'd kill Nico, and the Morettis would kill us all." Now the panic attacks made sense, the self-destruction, the violent pushing away of everyone. Jenna wasn't just a brat. She was a trapped animal, chewing its own leg off to get out of a snare. She was being blackmailed by her family's mortal enemy. "That call tonight," Olivia said. "That was him." Jenna nodded, pulling the blanket tighter. "He wants details on the new port contract. My father is celebrating it. It's a huge deal. Nico wants to know who the political contact is. I can't get it. I don't know it. And he's getting impatient." Olivia stood up and walked to the window. The grounds were silent, floodlit and secure, a perfect prison. "So you spy on your father," Jenna said, her voice small. "And I spy on my father. We're a matched set." Olivia turned. "I'm looking for the truth about my brother. You're just trying to save your own skin." "He's dead, Olivia," Jenna cried. "That's what terminated means. He stole from my father, from Tony Gallo, and my father. He resolves things. You're looking for a ghost. I'm trying not to become one." Olivia looked at the girl. She was right. Leo was gone. The ledger was just a tombstone. Her search was over, and it had led her to nothing but more pain. But here was a new problem. A living one. And Olivia had a sudden, terrifying and crystal-clear thought. Nico Moretti had leverage on Jenna, but Jenna, and now Olivia, had leverage on him too. The very act of him blackmailing the Don's daughter was a declaration of war. If Salvatore found out, Nico was a dead man. It was mutually assured destruction. And Olivia was a third party, a wild card. "You're right," Olivia said slowly. "I am a spy, but you're wrong about who I am. I'm not a servant, and I'm not a babysitter. I'm a waitress, and a waitress knows one thing. Everyone has a weakness. Everyone has something they want, and everyone has something they're afraid of." She walked over and picked up Jenna's phone from the floor. "What's his number?" "What? No, I'm not. I can't." "You're not going to. I am," Olivia said. "You said I was hired to handle you. This is me, handling this. You're done talking to Nico Moretti. From now on, he talks to me." "He'll kill you," Jenna whispered, her eyes wide with terror. "He'll underestimate me," Olivia corrected. "He'll see a waitress. He'll see the help. He won't see me coming." She unlocked the phone. "This is your one chance, Jenna. You either trust me right now, and we fix this, or you can keep cowering in here until Nico Moretti or your father destroys you. Your choice." Jenna stared at her for a long, silent minute. She saw the same strength she'd seen in the restaurant, the same fearlessness. But this time, it wasn't directed at her. It was for her. She took a shaky breath. "His name? It's just Nico in my contacts, with a black heart emoji." Olivia found it. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to set a meeting. And you're going to get me into your father's study." "What? Why?" "Because Nico wants information on the port deal." "So, we're going to bring him a little gift," Olivia said, a cold, hard plan forming in her mind. "And while I'm in there, I'm going to find the real file on Leo Russo, because I don't believe in ghosts." Jenna's fear was eclipsed by a dawning, terrible awe. This waitress, she wasn't just handling the situation. She was planning a coup. Getting into Salvatore's study was easier than Olivia expected. Jenna, it turned out, was a very good actress when motivated by pure terror. She'd staged a relapse, a screaming fit in the main hall at 3 a.m., demanding to see her father, while Salvatore and 2 bodyguards were occupied with his hysterical daughter. Olivia, dressed in black, slipped into the study. The room was dark, smelling of old leather and cigar smoke. She knew from Jenna that Salvatore, old school to a fault, kept 2 sets of books, the official ones on the computer and his real records in a floor safe behind a 19th century painting of the Sicilian coast. Jenna had given her the combination. "He thinks I don't know it," she'd whispered. "He thinks I'm too stupid to watch him." Ahoy, Nate 45. The year our family first came to America. Olivia's hands trembled as she spun the dial. The safe clicked open. Inside, there weren't stacks of cash, just ledgers. Black, leather-bound books. She found the one for the current year. She flipped to the personnel section. There it was again. Russo, Leo. But this wasn't a single line. It was a full page. Misappropriation. 50,000. TG. Waterfront. Resolution. Per SF. Asset relocated. Cayman operations. Indefinite work transfer. Status. Active. Olivia's knees buckled. Active. Not terminated. Relocated. He wasn't dead. Her father, in his paranoid rants about the Falcones, had always said, "They don't kill you if you're worth more alive." Salvatore wasn't a butcher. He was a businessman. Leo had stolen, so now Leo was working off his debt, probably for the rest of his life, in some offshore, inescapable Falcone operation. He was alive. A surge of pure, white-hot resolve flooded her. She was going to get him back. She quickly scanned for the port deal. She found it. Project Seagull. A contract with a city councilman, Michael K. O'Hara, to secure exclusive logistics rights. It was a massive, multi-million-dollar kickback scheme. She took pictures of both pages with her phone, the file on Leo and the one on O'Hara. Then she closed the safe, replaced the painting, and slipped out. The meeting was set for the next day at a neutral location, a public park by the river. Nico Moretti had agreed, his voice on the phone dripping with arrogant amusement at the idea of meeting Jenna's chambermaid. Olivia sat on a park bench. She was dressed in her simple waitress uniform. She wanted him to see her as nothing. Nico Moretti arrived, flanked by two men who looked like they lifted weights for a living. He was handsome, in a slick, predatory way, with dark, empty eyes. "Well, well," he said, sitting on the opposite end of the bench, while his men stood back. The personal companion. Jenna didn't have the guts to show up herself. "Jenna's busy," Olivia said, her voice flat. "You're dealing with me now." Nico laughed. "Dealing with you? Honey, I'm not here to order a coffee. I want the information on the port deal. Or does Ildon find out what a treacherous little snake his daughter is?" "He's not going to find out," Olivia said. "Oh yeah? And why's that?" "Because you're going to give me everything you have on her. The texts, the recordings, all of it. And you're going to delete your copies." Nico stared at her. Then he burst out laughing. "You're insane. You have... What? What could you possibly have to make me do that?" Olivia didn't flinch. "I have two things. The first is for you." She slid her phone across the bench. On the screen was the photo of the ledger page. Project Seagull, Michael K. O'Hara. Nico's smile faded instantly. He snatched the phone. How did you get this?" "Jenna got it. She's smarter than you think, and she's done being your puppet. This is a one-time gift, a severance package. You take this, and you give us the files on her. It's a clean trade. Your family scores a massive win against the Falcones, and you're the hero who brought it to them." Nico's eyes were narrowed, calculating. He saw the logic. This information was worth millions. It was a huge piece of leverage, far more valuable than the petty blackmail material on a flighty girl. "This is real?" he asked. 100%, Olivia said. "You know O'Hara's name. You know what that means." He nodded slowly. He was tempted. He was hooked. "And if I say no, I just take the phone and leave?" "You could," Olivia said, her voice dropping. "But then I'd have to use my second thing, the one that isn't for you." "What are you talking about?" "This," Olivia said, and she pulled a small digital audio recorder from her pocket and hit play. Nico's voice filled the air. "I want the information on the port deal. Or does Ildon find out what a treacherous little snake his daughter is?" Olivia clicked it off. "I've been recording this entire conversation. You, Nico Moretti, admitting to blackmailing the daughter of Salvatore Falcone." Nico went pale. You see, Olivia continued, the information on O'Hara, that's for your father. He'll be thrilled. But this recording, this is for my boss, Salvatore Falcone. He finds out you've been threatening his only child. He won't care about politics. He won't care about a truce. He will wipe your entire family off the map. And he'll start with you. Nico was breathing hard. He was trapped. The waitress had just played him beautifully. This is your leverage, he stammered. This is my leverage, Olivia agreed. So here's the new deal. You get your goons to airdrop the files on Jenna to my phone. Right now. I will watch you delete them. In exchange, I give you this phone with the O'Hara information, and I delete this recording. We both walk away with a win. Or, you can find out just how creative Don Falcone gets when his family is threatened. Nico stared at her, his face a mask of hatred and, for the first time, fear. He was completely outmaneuvered. Fine, he hissed. He barked an order to his men. For 5 agonizing minutes, files were transferred. Olivia watched as Nico, his hands shaking with rage, deleted the originals from his own device. It's done, he spat. Olivia checked her phone. The videos, the audio files, the texts, all of it. She stood up. She placed her phone with the O'Hara intel on the bench. Then she held up the audio recorder, pressed delete, and showed him the empty screen. Pleasure doing business with you, Nico, she said. She turned and walked away. Waitress, he called out, his voice venomous. You think you're smart, but you just gave me the ammo to ruin the Falcones. You betrayed your own boss. What do you get out of this? Olivia stopped but didn't turn around. I get Jenna, you get the port, and your father gets to fight my father. You started a war, he yelled. No, Olivia said, finally looking back over her shoulder. I just changed the battlefield, and you're not on it anymore. She walked out of the park, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm of terror and triumph. She had done it. She had freed Jenna. She had betrayed Salvatore, and she had the proof that her brother was alive. She had just done the impossible. Now came the hardest part, surviving it. When Olivia returned to the Falcone compound, the air was thick with tension. She walked straight to the main house, her phone clutched in her hand like a grenade. She found Jenna in her suite, pacing. Did you? Olivia simply held out her phone. It's done. It's all here. He's deleted everything. You're free. Jenna looked at the files, at the evidence of her own stupidity and betrayal, now harmlessly contained. She looked up at Olivia, and her eyes, for the first time, were completely clear. The frantic, broken energy was gone, replaced by a deep, stunned gratitude. You saved me, Jenna whispered. What did you give him? A trade, Olivia said. A trade. A deep voice boomed from the doorway. Both women spun around. Don Salvatore Falcone stood there, flanked by Vinnie Bruno. His face was unreadable, but his presence filled the room with a cold, heavy authority. I find your assistant, a woman I pay to protect my family, meeting with my greatest enemy, Salvatore said, his voice dangerously soft. And then I find she's given him Project Seagull, my most profitable deal in a decade. Explain this. Now. Jenna stepped forward. Father, it was my fault. Be quiet, Genevieve, Salvatore snapped, without taking his eyes off Olivia. Olivia met his gaze. The fear was there, a cold knot in her stomach. But the girl she'd been in the alley, the girl who was terrified of Vinnie Bruno, was gone. She had stared down Nico Moretti. She would not fold now. Nico Moretti was blackmailing your daughter, Olivia said, her voice shaking but strong. Salvatore's blood ran cold. What? He had recordings, texts. She's been compromised for months. He was destroying her. He was going to use her to destroy you." Salvatore looked at his daughter, who was trembling, tears streaming down her face. He saw the truth of it instantly, the panic attacks, the self-destruction. It wasn't just wildness, it was terror. "So you took it upon yourself to negotiate," Vinny said, stepping forward. "You gave up the Don's biggest score to save her." "I saved him," Olivia shot back, pointing at Salvatore. "What's worth more, a port contract or your family? Nico Moretti was a cancer. He had a direct line into your home. I cut him out." "You gave him O'Hara," Vinny roared. "You started a war." "I gave him a problem," Olivia corrected, her voice rising. "I gave the Morettis a piece of bait. Now they will go after O'Hara. O'Hara will panic. The politicians will scramble. Your rivals will be busy fighting your other rivals in the city council, and they'll be doing it in the open. I didn't start a war. I just, as I told Nico, changed the battlefield. You're a strategist, Mr. Falcone. You're better off with the Morettis exposed and fighting for scraps than with them holding a dagger to your daughter's throat." The room was dead silent. Salvatore stared at Olivia, his mind visibly working, processing the angles. He saw the cold, brutal logic. He saw the genius of it. She hadn't just saved Jenna. She had given him a strategic advantage at the cost of a deal he could eventually replace. "You did this," Salvatore said. "All of this. For my daughter?" "No," Olivia said. She took a step forward. "I did this for my brother." She held up her phone. But this time, it wasn't the files on Jenna. It was the photo of the ledger. Russo, Leo. Status. Active. Vinny's eyes widened. "He's alive," Olivia said, her voice thick with an emotion she had suppressed for too long. "He's in the Caymans. You didn't terminate him. You located him." Salvatore's expression didn't change, but his eyes held a new, dangerous respect. "You were in my safe." "Jenna got me in," Olivia said. "She's not stupid, Don Falcone. You've just never given her a reason to be smart." Jenna, who had been watching in terror, stood up straight. "It's true, Father, I did. Because she was the only one who didn't treat me like I was broken glass. She treated me like I was a person." Salvatore looked between the two women, his wild, uncontrollable daughter standing with a straight spine, and the waitress who had just confessed to corporate espionage, theft, and negotiating with a rival family, all from a position of absolute strength. Olivia Russo had done the impossible. She hadn't just handled Jenna. She had saved her. And in doing so, she had proven she was smarter, colder, and more ruthless than half the men on his payroll. Salvatore Falcone was a businessman, and he had just discovered a priceless new asset. "Vinny," Salvatore said, his voice calm. "Make arrangements. I want Leo Russo on a plane back here by the end of the week. He'll work in the warehouses. He'll be on a short leash, but he'll be home." Olivia let out the breath she'd been holding for 6 months. "As for you, Miss Russo," Salvatore said, turning to her, "you're fired as Jenna's companion." Jenna's face fell. "Father, no." "She is, however," Salvatore continued, a thin, wolfish smile touching his lips, "hired as my new personal advisor. You have a spine, you have a brain, and you are not afraid of me. That's a rare combination." He looked at her, the waitress who had just brought his entire operation to its knees and put it back together again. "Your office will be next to mine," he said. "Vinny will show you. You start tomorrow. We have a Moretti problem to discuss." Olivia looked at Jenna. Jenna gave her a small, shaky smile. It wasn't friendship. It was an alliance. Olivia Russo had walked into the lion's den to find her brother. She had done the impossible. She hadn't just handled the mafia boss's daughter. She had just been given a seat at the table. And just like that, the entire power structure of the city shifted. It wasn't because of a gunshot or a backroom deal. It was because of a waitress who refused to be scared. Olivia Russo proved that true power isn't about the name you're born with or the money in your account. It's about seeing the truth when everyone else is blinded by fear, and having the courage to make a move no one else would dare. She didn't just save Jenna Falcone. She saved herself. And in the world of men like Salvatore Falcone, loyalty and intelligence are the only currencies that matter. What do you think happens to Olivia next? Does she become the new power behind the throne? Or will her own past come back to haunt her? If you loved this story, please show your support by hitting that like button. It really helps the channel. Don't forget to share this video with a friend who loves a good drama, and most importantly, subscribe and ring that notification bell. We drop intense stories like this every week, and you don't want to miss what happens next. Thanks for listening.